What I have to do here is to replace some rotten wood. Now this section here is, I guess, what I'd call the rear parcel shelf. That's just for want of a description. It's bolted in at each end and obviously screwed up into this piece of timber here from underneath in the boot section. Of course it's all rotten, borer ridden, and also subject to considerable dry rot, so it's got to be replaced. But the other problem I have is that this piece of timber here that it screws onto, which is a laminated piece of timber, the laminations have actually come apart. Now I'll have to look at how I repair that, whether I cut it and try and repair the laminations. I'm not too sure yet, so I'll just have to look at that. This section here under the rear window is also made of laminated timber, but it's rotten from there to there, so that needs to be addressed. The other thing I need to do in this rear section is the rear window is actually held in place into the recess here. It sits in there. There's a metal from the body. It sits in there, but it's held in place by another piece of timber. This piece here, which is a piece of ply. It's meant to go all the way around the window, but the whole bottom section is rotted off. So I've actually got to replace that and probably use what's left of this and remake the bottom section across the bottom there. That'll enable me to screw the window into place and with its seal, and so it actually seals properly. So that's got to be done. So there's a fair bit of timber work to be done. None of this timber is actually structural, but it's there to support things like the window frame, and also ultimately to form a basis for attaching the lining that goes around on the inside of the body, the head lining, and also down covering all this section here. So it's important, even though it's not structural. It's curved, compound curves, and that's why it's been laminated to make it easier to make. Whether I laminate, whether I shape, I'm not too sure yet until I actually get the pieces out. It's taken a lot of work to get the rear section of the car right, the woodwork in particular around the window. The original piece of wood I had finished there was all rotten down along the bottom, and the wood behind was rotten down the bottom too. So I've had to remake all of that and remake all this new piece here. The piece of timber that goes all the way around the back of the car, it was rotten in basically from this section to there. I actually used the original piece and spliced in other laminations to reconstruct that, so that took a while to get it right and shaped right. This now holds the rear window in place quite nicely. The rear parcel shelf, very flimsy thing. I had a piece of that from the old car, so I was able to reconstruct that. The backboard I didn't have, but certainly that's the way it must go in. It bolts in. I actually had to re-tap the bolt points just so I could use modern modern bolts. The rear seat, or the back of the rear seat, I've had to recut that. That was all rotten. I had enough to do a pattern. It doesn't look like it was actually ever fixed to the car, so I'll look at that when I put the rear seat section on and see if I can perhaps fix it from inside the boot. So this actually is attached to the car. I don't know how it will go being a little bit loose. Maybe it's held in place by the cushion down here, who knows. I've replaced the floor sections here. They were missing, so they're easy enough. They cover the dampers. This floor section here has been replaced. It wasn't there either. That's fairly straightforward. All new bolts will be put in and re-tapped, all of those.